Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, my co-host, and we're back here on Thursday morning. We're going to talk some CharMar Brown and give you the latest on the Huskers' pursuit of the North Dakota State running back. We're also going to talk a little bit of recruiting, some roster limits, and maybe some NFL draft, since that is kicking off tonight with the first round. So before we get into it, please make sure that you subscribe, hit the like button, get into the comment section. Danny, how are you doing on draft day?
I'm ready for a busy weekend, that's for sure. It seems like everything's happening all at once between the spring game, or maybe I shouldn't call it that, and the NFL draft and this recruiting news. I'm going to have a lot to do this weekend.
It's gonna be busy. It's actually the draft is like snuck up on me. I'm usually a huge draft fan, and I'm like, man, I can't believe it's already here. I've hardly even like considered who I want like my Green Bay Packers and my Patriots to take a little bit. We've talked about it a little bit, but should be fun. I wish there was going to be some Nebraska players tonight, but hopefully in the next few years we can get back to seeing the Huskers regularly in the first round, because it's been a long time. What, Prince Amukamara, wasn't he the last first rounder like 10 years ago or something? Over 10 years ago now, but
2012,
anyway.
I think it was. Yeah.
So well, there's a lot of things happening. Let's get into it here with CharMar Brown. I mean, that's kind of the topic of conversation among Nebraska football fans. You sent me a thing last night where he was in Nebraska, coming to Nebraska today for his visit. He's going to be not taking part, but he's going to be up there for the final practice. And I think it's a good, kind of a smart thing by the coaching staff, because he'll get to see, some of the offensive linemen, Rocco Spindler, some of those dudes who probably aren't going to play Saturday. Get a chance to see the offense. He has a close relationship with like Sam Sledge. That was something I read. And I think it's a good sign that he got out of Miami. There's visits kind of on the docket for Cal and Kansas State. But what's kind of your read, on this situation? It's kind of been hard to gather on the Nebraska side, like how serious they are, like how much they're going to be willing to spend on this recruitment. But now that he's visiting, what's your read on this situation?
Miami has two very good quarterbacks, or running backs, and Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle. So I think that works to Nebraska's advantage, because I'm not sure he would be coming to Miami to be a third running back. And Miami has other pressing needs for this spring window. The fact that he's visiting Nebraska is a good sign. I'll be interested to see, and we've talked about this before, what his price point is. I think he would have a larger role at Nebraska than he would at, say, Miami, for example. But I'm going to be very interested to see, what comes of this weekend. It would be great to keep a local kid home, because he's from Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. And, I think that he would definitely add something to the backfield. With that being said, I wouldn't get into a bidding war for him, just because, it's a lot to spend on a backup running back, and I know a lot of fans don't feel this way, but I feel comfortable with where this room stands, talent-wise. Depth-wise is a different story, but I wouldn't break the bank for Brown.
And I think that's going to be, I think that's been the key question this entire time, right? Like Matt Rule and Pat Stewart have to kind of evaluate, what it is going to cost to get, CharMar Brown. How does that affect, the rest of the roster and the salary cap? And, I think my read on the situation is I don't think they should get into a bidding war either. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they should, I don't think that they should try to, outdo Miami's number. I don't think that that's the way Nebraska, wins this recruitment. I think they need to be competitive. I think that needs to be, if Miami's offering 500,000 and Nebraska's offering, 100,000, then, we probably know where that decision's headed. But, if it's, somewhere more competitive, I mean, these are just, I'm just throwing out these numbers. I don't have anything to back these up. So just, FYI, but say it's like, they're offering 500, Nebraska's offering 400, then maybe it's like, okay, well, I have my family here. Because there's the other thing is like, it's going to be a lot easier for CharMar Brown's family to, watch him play at Nebraska or even Kansas State. I mean, I'll give that too, but then it's to Miami. If he's playing in Miami, it's going to be hard for, they'll have a lot of NIL money, and maybe that can, ease that burden a little bit. but I do think that that is one thing, the playing close to home. But also, does he have some hurt feelings from 2023 when the Nebraska basically took Quentin Ives over him? I mean, I realized that some of that was the previous staff, but if Nebraska really wanted him 2 years ago, they could have had him. I mean, they could have flipped him, they could have recruited him, they went in another direction, and it seems to me like they're going to do that again. Maybe they haven't seen enough. I think that they like CharMar Brown. I think they would definitely take him on this roster, but I don't, like you said, I don't know that they're willing to spend the rest of their budget. And I don't know how much they have left in their NIL budget, to be honest with you. So that's another question. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Those are those internal things that they have to figure out. I'm sure they have some. I mean, Matt Rule talked about like potentially adding a player if they could. So I feel like they have, resources to get there. But yeah, it's an interesting situation. I do think Quentin Ives, the coaching staff is obviously very high and believes in him. And I think there's good reason for that. But if you can make this move, I really think they should. But like I said, I don't think it's worth it to get into a bidding war. I think that the depth is good enough where they don't have to try to break the bank and get desperate for CharMar Brown.
If the number is in the thousands, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to reach it or match it or, exceed it. Once it gets to the millions, that's when I would kind of stop with the bidding war. And it's very obvious, like we've heard them talk throughout the course of the spring about the progress that the running back room has made. So it's very obvious that they like what they have. A lot of people I was reading online last night said this must mean that Nebraska's not confident in the running backs that they have in the room, and I don't really see it like that. I see it as they have an opportunity to get a local kid on campus who's extremely talented, won the Jerry Rice Award as the most outstanding freshman in the FCS, and now they're going to try to bid for him because these days it's not necessarily about what you need and what you have and things like that. It's about getting talented players on a roster. So again, I do think that the Nebraska coaching staff is confident in what they have in the room. They've talked, Nelson and Ives up highly. And I'd be very hesitant if the number gets over 1 million to enter a bidding war.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they went that high with it. But we'll see. I mean, they spent a lot for Rocco Spindler, I think. So, but I believe they value offensive line, more than running back, especially, a guy that would probably be the number 2. I really don't think he would beat out Emmett Johnson. But like I have mentioned, Emmett is only 205 pounds, and I wonder if he, is going to be able to hold up for 9 Big Ten games, getting the ball close to 15, 20 times a game. We'll see. I mean, I think he's proven the past couple of years he can hold up pretty well, but he hasn't really, they've kind of gone to him more later in the season. So, can he do it for 12 games? And can Quentin Ives hold up? Because that's the thing, is like if Emmett Johnson goes down, if there's an injury to Emmett Johnson, that's where it gets scary to me. And it's like, and I feel like those are the kind of things that you just have to kind of plan for, because you're running, like in the Big Ten, your running backs are going to get banged up. And so at some point this season, whether it's CharMar Brown or whether it's Quentin Ives, like somebody else is probably going to have to take over that lead role, whether it's for half a game or for a full game or for a couple games. Like that's just usually how it works in the Big Ten. And so, that's what I'm thinking of. And do we, is Quentin Ives ready for that? I think there's a chance that he is, but we don't know. That's a risk that it seems like Nebraska's, or Nelson. It seems like Nebraska's willing to take that risk, but I do think it seems like Quentin Ives has definitely established himself as the number 2 currently on the roster.
And I do think for the offensive line comparison, you're gonna have to pay out the nose for a transfer portal offensive lineman anyway. So I think the situations differ slightly in that regard. And Nebraska they desperately needed somebody at Spindler's position. Here, I'm not sure they desperately need a running back, but the combination of the need on offensive line and the offensive lineman market. I mean, we saw Isaiah World go to Oregon for a good amount of money. I think those factors played a role too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't think that they're that that worried if they have to go with Quentin Ives. I mean, like I said, they took Quentin Ives over CharMar Brown, originally as a recruit. So I don't think it's going to be that surprising. We'll see how it works out. I think we'll know a lot by the end of today. Cal's out there too, and they lost all their running backs. So like if he wants to, have a true RB1 situation, that would be a good spot to go. Kansas State has some talented backs, so it'd be a similar type of situation. But I really feel like it's going to be Nebraska or Miami. That's just what my gut tells me.
And again, I think it's going to come down to the money and the role. And I feel like if he wants playing time, come to Nebraska. If he wants money and sunny weather and girls, go to Miami.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
I guess one thing that kind of is interesting that kind of ties in, not with CharMar Brown per se, but with the spring transfer portal and roster limits, is that the House settlement, and I don't know the judge's name. I'm sure I could find it. I don't think you guys really care that much. It's just about what the judge said, and the judge basically said that she will not approve the settlement as is unless there's a change made to the roster limits. And so basically, it seems like unless players like are grandfathered in or the roster limits are pushed down the road that settlement's not going to get approved. So I don't think roster limits, that 105-man roster limit, is going to be a thing this year, which
That's
is a
how I
really good
read it
thing
as well. Yep.
Yeah, which is a really good thing, I think, for Nebraska because, they've got 130 guys on this roster and they have people like, Teddy Prohashka, people like that probably could, make it to have a spot on this roster, potentially could have a spot, even on the field. But like rostering them on the 105 was kind of dicey because you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. So I feel like, while this probably helps quite a few teams, I feel like it's going to help Nebraska more than almost anybody.
Especially with offensive line depth, and that way you can have a guy like Prohashka in case somebody goes down and not have to worry about where you stand there. And so I think this is a really good thing. I'll be interested to see if it extends past 2025. Was it just 2025? Was the ruling this last night?
She just said that she wanted them to come up with a way to essentially grandfather in current players. So I'm not sure exactly what that means or what that's going to look like. I think the NCAA just has to come up with something that's not going to force. I think essentially her point was like, you're having all these guys who were offered scholarships and signed for these scholarships, and now they're going to basically face an undue penalty because you decided to change your own rules. And so I don't know if they're going to, extend it beyond this season, but it could be a 2 or 3 year thing before it actually, comes to pass. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But yeah, I don't think there'll be anything like a 105-man roster limit this season.
It's the NCAA, so they'll find a way to mess this up. I'll be interested to see how they handle it.
They kind of already have. They kind of already have at this point. But
yeah,
I mean, it was pretty clear. The judge, basically said that before, that she wanted, sometimes she said everything is fine with this except the roster limits because it does, like your Teddy Prohashka, like you did your part and now you're not going to be on the team because of this, roster limit that didn't exist before. So, I mean, I do understand where she's coming from. And, from a selfish perspective, it would be nice to be able to hang on to some of these players that, like Matt Rule said, they're like, I'm a Husker until, you tell me I'm not. So now, at least for this season, he's not going to have to tell some of those guys that they don't get to be a Husker, I think. So that'll be a good thing.
And I'm looking at the wide receiver room too, like a guy like Demetrius Bell, for example, and some of the other guys too. And not that we need more wide receivers, but there's just a ton of talent there. So yeah, I think this is a really good thing too. I'll be interested, like I said, to see how the NCAA handles it because I don't have confidence that they will be able to handle it in an effective manner. They've already done so well with NIL, and we've seen where that's gone. So we'll see.
Yeah, one would think they wouldn't blow up the settlement over this, but you never know with those guys. So yeah. But speaking of that, the spring game, that will be kind of interesting. Like Demetrius Bell will be somebody to keep an eye on. Quinn Clark, some of these offensive linemen. I did want to mention, I was listening to the Husker Online guys, and they were talking about Henry Leftoski being the right tackle and possibly Turner Corcoran being the left tackle, which made me think of you, Danny, because I know that you love those guys so much. So
I don't mind Henry. I'm just tired of seeing Turner, to be honest with you. He was a walking penalty 2 years ago, and he's never been able to stay healthy.
That's true. I also do think that Nebraska always played him out of position. So,
True.
if he actually just did play guard, he probably would be a pretty good left guard. But I don't know. There's some other guys. Gunnar Gatula. If
I like Gunner.
Latowski's,
I really do like Gunner, and I'm not just saying that because I, don't care for Teddy, but I do really
yeah,
like Gunner. I thought he played well last
and
year.
I thought he did too, and he played left tackle, so maybe he could bump into the left guard. It seems like they really want Latowski to play tackle, and he is 6'6" now, and he played right guard last season. So I don't know. I mean, if that maybe that they see that as an easier transition than Gatula, switching from right to left. But either way, I think they've got a lot of solid options. I mean, in Gatula,
Yeah.
just right there, Gatula, Corcoran, and Latowski. You've got three guys who have started a lot of games for you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to be able to have depth, right? And it's nice to be able to have options. And honestly, it's nice to, in my opinion, know who your center is in Justin Evans Jenkins. I mean, it seems like he's established himself as a center early on. So I really like him. And so it's nice to have that spot kind of penciled in because Ben Scott, I know he necessarily didn't get the headlines, but he played really well. He was named to an All Big Ten team, I believe it was last year. So I'm excited to that center play has been consistent. And on that note, shout out to Cam Jurgens for signing an extension with the Philadelphia Eagles. So this was a guy that couldn't snap the ball. His final season went out and busted his butt at the combine, and now he's rolling. He's cooking. So congrats to him. Scott Frost was right about him.
Yeah, for sure. Congrats to him. That's awesome to see. Back to the roster limits thing. Like, I love the fact that they're going to be able to carry, Teddy Prohashka on this team and not have to worry about the 105 or whatever, because I know like he hasn't been able to stay healthy like whatsoever. But if you have some injury issues and that dude's healthy, if he can stay on the field, like whenever he's been on the field, he's been pretty good. So, I don't know.
He's been
Maybe
part of the injury issue, so I don't know.
no, he has been for sure.
Like it's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
When you're 6'10", but I'm just saying if he's somehow, like if Elijah Pritchett goes down at some point during the season and Teddy's over there like 100%, like he could go out there and never give the job back. Like you just don't know with him. Like I feel like he's got so much potential. Like I feel like if he could stay healthy for a full season and play like 12 games healthy, I really do think he could get drafted. Like I don't know if he could ever keep himself healthy to get on the field, but he's got all the skills to be a really good tackle. It's just, can he stay healthy? So we'll see. I hope that he can. And even if he didn't play like very many games this year, if he could just get through a season, like even if he's just a backup without getting a season-ending injury,
for him. Yeah.
That would be a victory. Yeah. So, and then I mean, honestly, like if he went to the draft, like if I was an NFL team, I would at least sign him to like a rookie free agent contract because you might hit the lottery with this dude. Like how many guys are 6'9" and can pass protect? I mean,
True. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then the portal closes, I think, on Friday.
I thought it already closed, or maybe I'm mistaken.
I think it closes on Friday. It might have already closed for basketball. Maybe that's.
Oh, I think it's basketball. Yeah, it's basketball. You're right.
But football going to be closing today. DeAndre Barnes went into the portal. He got some buzz this spring as a guy that could possibly work his way into the 2 deep, but that's where it is. He was on the roster for 2 years and played in 1 game. So like from his perspective, if you're sitting there like, man, I'm like the 7th or 8th cornerback, like, do you want to waste, he's already lost a year of eligibility playing 1 game. I understand wanting to try to go somewhere else and playing your 3 seasons. So
the corner room is completely different now. So I honestly don't blame him whatsoever.
Yeah, and I do think he can find a place to play. I think he's good enough to play somewhere. It was just going to be hard to find a spot here because there's so many. I mean, there's so many guys that we're not even like talking about. Jeremiah Charles, is another guy. Bryce Turner doesn't get talked about very much. Larry Tarver, Amari Sanders. I mean, there's just a bunch of young guys. Mario Buford in that room.
Donovan Jones, who played really well in the whole game.
Yeah, Evan Taylor, right?
Yep, from Carolina. North Carolina?
Yeah. Yeah, so always screws me on college football 25. But anyway, that's not his fault. But still on the so there's just a really loaded cornerback room there. So I
Yes,
don't
so you're right, obviously. Not that he's a depth piece or
yeah.
anything, but just kind of headlining that room.
And my boy Andrew Marshall from the Big
Yep.
Sky. I'm stoked to see him. So anyway, speaking of players from Idaho, to switch over to some recruiting, Kelvin Obot from the state of Idaho, Fruitland, Idaho, which I have never heard of before. But anyway, he is one of the best offensive tackles in the 2026 class and did include Nebraska in his top 5. It's also, I think, Michigan, Oregon, I think USC and Utah. I want to say
Yep.
that's the top
Yep.
5.
Mhm.
I think a reason for Nebraska fans to feel good. He's been on campus twice. He doesn't really have an official visit schedule yet, so I mean, getting him back on campus, that's going to be a big thing there. But he's a really talented guy. They've been in the mix with a lot of offensive tackles. I would love to see
Yep.
them, finally close like on a premier one, which I think he. And then let's see. There was another. We talked about Bonner earlier this week, the running back. One
Hayden
thing,
Ainsworth.
yeah, Hayden Ainsworth is another guy that Nebraska made the top 5 for, and he's out of Biloxi, Mississippi. A 3-star, not rated quite as high, but another talented guy. Ole Miss, in the mix here. He does have an official visit set up for Nebraska, and
First
he
weekend of
essentially.
June, I think.
Yeah, and so Florida State, Liberty is kind of interesting. North Carolina and Ole Miss are the other ones. So I'm like, how is Liberty in the mix there? But
They always have a good passing offense, to be fair. That's where
that's true.
that's where Demary Douglas came from, Patriot receiver.
So I think that'll be an interesting one with Ainsworth. He pretty much said like the official visits are going to tell the story of this recruitment. So those are 2 finalists this
Watch out
week.
for Liberty.
Yeah, watch out for Liberty. That's and then North Carolina State, I guess, is in the mix too. So because
Yeah.
it's when they changed that a few years ago, you used to only be able to take 5 official visits. Now you can take as many as you want.
North Carolina State, I believe, is going to get his first visit. Nebraska is going to get his second, and then beyond that, I don't remember off the top of my head. But
So when I'm looking at the June visits list, which was the Black Shirt social media account posted this, but it's from On3. And looking at it, like Kelvin Obot is one of the guys I would like to see added to this list. He's not an official visitor yet. But yeah, CJ Brona, Bonner, Dayton Rayola, Luke Sorensen, Lincoln Watkins, Devin Jackson, who just didn't flip, but just decommitted from Florida.
I would watch him closely. Him and Danny Odom.
Running back's going to be, they've got 3 running backs visiting, DeSeven Walker, Brian Bonner, and then Jamal Rule. So those are, I don't know if they're going to take 2 this year. I always think you should try to take 2. It'd be nice if they could get, another blue chip running back, because I mean, if you looking back, beyond the 2023 class, like it's been a long time since they've like gotten some big time running backs. Shamarian Parker is probably the closest thing to what I would say like a big time running back recruit. So I'd really like to see them follow up and hit with either Bonner or DeSeven Walker, which is not going to be easy with either of those guys. But I think they definitely have a chance. So
one of the guys that's coming back today that's kind of interesting, and the fact that he's coming back is linebacker Jordan Campbell. He's been on campus multiple times, and I'm wondering how close Nebraska really is to sealing the deal. I know, again, Miami wants him, obviously, because he's out of Florida. He's one of my favorite prospects, but him coming back is certainly a good sign, and I'm very curious about what this means with him in Nebraska.
Yeah, and he's another one to see. Maybe they could get him back for an official visit, because he's going he's visiting Miami June 20th. That's his only official visit right now. So if Nebraska could get him on the schedule for that, I think that would be a really good sign. Jace Reynolds, I know, is going to be visiting this weekend. He's on track for an official visit, so I think things are still kind of trending up there. Darian Jones also released his top 5 recently. Nebraska's definitely right in the mix there. I know Iowa State is. I know Iowa's in the mix. These Iowa schools are really coming for Nebraska kids hard with, Iowa offering Braylon Warren in the 2027 class, the Nebraska quarterback. So Iowa and Iowa State, man, doing work in the state of Nebraska.
And we're trying to do work in the state of Florida and Georgia, so I'm not too worried. I know people want to keep kids home, but we've definitely established our own recruiting base down south, and it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds for sure.
Yeah, and CJ Brona, I mean, he's got official visits with Florida State and Florida
I'm
now. I
getting
think
worried about him, to be honest with you.
Penn State too. Yeah, I am worried about him too. Yeah, he's going to be a dynamic player, so hopefully, they can hold on to that commitment. But yeah, that one I'm getting a little worried about that one as well. So, you know, we'll see how that kind of plays out. But three commitments right now. All of them are set for official visits, I believe, right now. So we'll see where it goes. I feel like this class is going to end up about 15 to 20. I'd be surprised if they got over 20 just based on where their numbers are. So I think that's why you haven't seen quite as many commitments so far.
Yeah, and the program is using the transfer portal a lot too now. So that's the way of college football, and Nebraska has been very selective in the past couple classes with high school prospects and commitments and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this class plays out.
Yeah, it will be Dayton Raiola kind of leading the way. So I think it's going to be a quality class, but lots of work still to do. The spring game coming up on Saturday, or the I guess the red white scrimmage, whatever you want to call it, but that'll be kind of
Don't
a wrap
call it a
up
spring
to
game though. Don't call it a spring game.
But anyway, we will be back on Saturday for our Saturday morning chat. So we'll be talking about the not spring game. We'll talk about the NFL draft, maybe some CharMar Brown. There is going to be, an interesting discussion like players to watch. So maybe we'll save that for Saturday. But I got a few that I'm, going to be looking out for to see kind of how they perform. So yeah, come join us Saturday morning. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get in the comment section. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.